The following is a special presentation of iRacing on LSRTV, your home for sim racing. And we are live tonight from the Michigan International Speedway. LSRTV with you to say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to our continuing coverage of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series powered by English Auto L.L.C. Your home for sim racing and iRacing Live. Happy that you're with us from the Irish Hills of Michigan. We are inside of lap number 8 as we take a look at the action up front. And in fact, as we welcome you in, a battle for the race lead. That's the 11 of Dylan Jones out front. He started this race on pole position, and he just now got passed by Andrew Freitas and Daniel Eberhardt. So that battle no longer going to be for second and third. It'll be for first and second as we get set to complete lap number 8. Happy that you're with us. Apologize about being on a little bit late with some minor technical issues. Myself, Evan Pasoko, Brian Backlund, Trevor Valderrama with you upstairs, with Joe Allen downstairs. And Brian, Michigan Foot Race, round 11 of the year. It is the first race of segment number 2 on the season. And in these opening laps, so far no issues as we join the action live. No yellows so far, and as you can see up front, some good racing so far.
Absolutely, some good racing so far, and as you mentioned, it is the first race of that new segment, and so for all of these drivers, it's a new opportunity to try to set themselves up to do what we saw Brandon Bowie do in the first segment, and that's go out there and win that championship and win that prize. So a big opportunity for these guys is, oh, Dylan Jones goes for a ride coming off turn 4. He got sideways and somehow kept that car on the racetrack. I thought for sure he was going through the grass up in the sofa, but somehow he kept that car pointing in the right direction. He did lose a ton of time. He's going to fall back behind the number 36 machine of Brendan Kohler as well because of that. He might lose a couple more spots.
Well, it's a new iRacing to build, and admittedly, the first thing I thought when that car was going down there is we're going to see some grass go flying, but it was a great job by Dylan Jones to hang on to that race car. He did get the left side tires out in the grass. He is going to lose a little bit of time here. Brendan Kohler's going to get on to by him, so he'll tuck it between Kohler and Garilli. It looks like that'll be about 5th place for Dylan Jones, so not all is that bad. Of course, you never want to drop back like that, Trevin, but when you look at the alternative of wrecking out of this race, I think he'll take exactly what he's got. So a little bit of a scare there now as we're through 10 laps complete from MIS. This race, 100 laps, and therefore 200 miles total distance here at the 2-mile D-shaped oval in Brooklyn, Michigan. MIS, always one of my favorite tracks. Sister track we saw earlier this year already in Fontana. That one was won, but the driver who sits in second place at the moment, Daniel Eberhardt, that was his second win of the season, and he has not won a points race since then. So maybe the Nana Machine, a fond driver of these 2-mile racetracks, is in a good spot right now, still early on, running exactly where he started there, P2.
Yeah, and exactly how you pointed out that this is a new build, so drivers are going to have to adjust themselves to what they have been dealing with segment 1, but now a completely new build came out, so they're going to have to relearn how the car works, how the car handles, and you know exactly what you pointed out. You know, you don't want to take an early wreck, but I'm sure he'd rather do that. You still have almost 90, a little under 90 laps to go, so you still have a lot of time to bounce back and get back up to that front position that you were at before. But you know, this is just such a great race so far. We had a lot of battling up front towards the beginning, and this is just going to be one heck of a race tonight here.
And of course, these races can spread out, go green, Brian, strictly due to the nature that this is a very wide Michigan International Speedway. Not only is it a 2-mile oval, but there is just a lot of real estate. Now, you can see already only about 13 laps into this run, albeit, but that line is already getting rubbered in up about that, just above that first seam. So about one lane up off of the bottom of the racetrack is where these drivers really like to run. But this Michigan racetrack does give you a little bit of leniency. You can step up a lane, you can go down a lane or so, and I think personally puts a little bit extra in the hands of the drivers as far as, you know, what particular driving style that they tend to lean towards compared to some of the more cookie cutter tracks where this is the way you got to run it to be fast. No ifs, ands, or buts. Here you can get a little bit more creative. So that has allowed everybody to spread out, in the field of 28 cars that has taken the green flag here this evening from Michigan. And I feel like since we got through those, I'm not sure if treacherous is the right word, but, you know, maybe a little bit of a hold your breath moments there, obviously off of a restart. I think we're in a good spot set up for a green flag stretch here.
We absolutely are, and the one thing that makes this track a little bit more challenging is also the fact that we don't have the new surface that these guys have in real life. Of course, this track got repaved a few years ago, but we don't have that version of the track here on iRacing yet, so we're still running on the old surface where the tires really wear out a ton, and it really makes the handling on the cars go away that much more. If you look at the lap times from the drop of the green flag to right now, our race leader, Andrew Freenarge, his fastest lap of the race was a 38.61. His last time by, he ran a 40.83. So he's dropped off over 2 full seconds in these 15 laps that we've seen these guys run on. It really creates a new dynamic when you have tire fall off like that. And we saw with Dylan Jones, just how loose these cars can get on corner exit. The longer you're out here on these tires, the worse that condition is going to get. So these guys are going to have to be very, very careful once they get a little bit further into this run, not to overheat that right rear tire and not get the car upset to where you start spinning it out.
Of course, this is the 11th race on the season, Trevin, and all that meaning that if you look back from a week ago at Charlotte, we ended the first segment of the season, and therefore handed out a little bit of cash and some hardware for our Segment 1 champion. The points leader into tonight, therefore, Brandon Bowie, who has accumulated 303 points over the course of the season thus far, enters tonight at the top of the championship, but therefore also wins the Segment 1 title. So he was 5 points ahead of Seth the Merchant second, 12 points back third to Michael Guerrilla. Those are the drivers who walk away with the little bit of hardware and the cash for winning the Segment 1 championship. $150 to Brandon Bowie. He's right now third on track. Seth the Merchant, $100 for coming home second in that one. A Merchant, I don't believe, on track at the moment. And then Michael Guerrilla as well, coming home third in the opening segment of this one, as we keep an eye on the battle for the race lead. And Eberhardt, just talking about him not all that long ago, he's trying to get up onto the back of Faridars there, and he's going to be able to get up and on by him. So the 88 machine tried to stay high, the 90 went low, and it looked like maybe an attempted crossover, Trevin. Nothing came from it, though. He'll look again there, but can't make that car stick on that lower line. And for the first time tonight, Daniel Eberhardt at a turn number 4, lap 17, he's going to go to the race lead.
Yeah, he was just stalking him, watching how he made his moves into the corner and watch how he, continued through the corner and then a corner exit, and he just made a better commitment, and now we have a yellow on the track, Evan.
Caution flag is out at lap 18, and it is a car off and in the grass. Dwight Beverly scored way back in 27th position. That is the car that is off and into the grass, and I believe that's where the opening caution flag of this race is going to come from. We'll get a second look at this one in a moment on the LSRTV replay, but Brian, we saw loose conditions earlier on from pole sitter Dylan Jones, and it looked very similar for the 0-2 Dwight Beverly. He got all kinds of sideways off of the corner and probably would have been able to hang on to it, although he was pretty sideways, but it was at 64 of Andrew T. Jones right behind him. Really nowhere to go. He gets into him, and that finishes the 0-2 off, and Beverly pretty hard into the outside wall. He ended up in the grass. I don't know how Chris Hurlow wasn't involved in that one, but the 87 came slicing on through, and somehow that accident limited those two cars as we get our first yellow of the night.
Yeah, and that unfortunately was one of those deals where it's just like you said, as these tires got more wore out, the car just went away, the handling went away, and unfortunately for Dwight Beverly, that thing just was completely sideways. And I'm like you, I think he might have had an opportunity to save that, but unfortunately he had some contact with another car that ended his day, and unfortunately gave a lot of damage to the other driver that was involved as well. But That's just one of the things these guys are going to be dealing with all night long. But something else, Evan Pasoko, that they're going to have to deal with, it's something that was new with this new build as well, is when they come down here for their pit stops coming off of, as they come out of the pits, they have to stay below the white line on the apron all the way around. It's already been a rule here in the league, but now iRacing has set it up to where they have to stay down there until they get past the blue cone that sits on the backstretch as they come off turn 2. They have to make sure they stay down there. If they even clip that white line, they're going to get a penalty and have to come back in or go to the rear of the line.
And speaking of a line, well, it is a long line headed down the pit lane at the moment as race leaders are in for service. For the first time in this race, Daniel Eberhardt just took over the race lead. He's got a long trip down to the end of pit road, and maybe Dylan Jones going to make up some spots here with that number 1 pit stall after he made that mistake a little bit earlier on in the race here. That cost him some positions as well. We'll see if that's going to be the case. The call's obviously going to be fuel it for tires. Race off of the pit lane. We'll go to Eberhardt. Bowie, though, going to make a great run in the 43. I believe he will end up second off of pit road, and I think it'll be +1 for Dylan Jones, so a small victory for that 11 machine.
Yeah, and just a great pit stop for him. He's going to pull it off second place, and that's just fantastic. You know, I was saying last night during our broadcast, if you can't beat him on the track, you got to try and beat him on pit road, and that's exactly what he did. He's up to second now, and you see that blue cone being implemented from that build as Brian was talking about earlier, and we're going to re-rack him, restack him, get ready for a green flag to go. And, you know, it's just a great race tonight. You know, we're already 20 laps in, and, you know, we're seeing a lot of different lines being used. Obviously, Daniel Eberhardt had to find a different way around Andrew Freenars, which was great. So, you know, trying to conserve those tires to make you go as far as you can and make sure you're there at the end of the race to make a pass.
And that new build, anytime it comes around every, 2 or 3, 4 times, I guess, it happens over the course of a year, it's obviously a big talking point. Obviously these NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series machines, Brian, don't get as tweaked as much as maybe some of the other stuff did this last time around on the service. But as the lights go out on top of the pace car, I know that it's definitely something that as of last Tuesday, that is what a lot of drivers have been paying attention to. And I'm sure maybe spending a little bit of extra time on the sim between then and now, getting ready for this Michigan race than they would have if there was not a build in between the last race to this week.
Well, anytime there's a new build, you have to get out there and turn laps just to figure out what the car is going to do, how the car is going to react to different racetracks, how the tire model is going to react. Sometimes they do some things to the tire model to make it drive a little differently. So you definitely need to get out there. And I was watching in pre-race during the practice. These guys were out there, and they were running long green flag runs. I didn't see very many people that were out there hot lapping. I saw everybody out there running 10, 15 lap runs, really trying to get a feel for what these cars were going to do so they knew what to expect. And when you have a car that gets as loose as this one does here tonight, you almost need to be out there running those 10 or 15 lap green flag runs so that you know how to react to it when it starts happening. We saw how good Dylan Jones was able to hang on to that car. That's because he already knew what to expect. He was out there doing that in practice, so he was ready to go for it when it happened. And that potentially, in my opinion, saved him from spinning through the grass and losing a ton of track position. He's still up in the 3rd spot right now.
We'll see if Dylan Jones can completely turn his night around inside of row number 2. We'll see just how good of a restart position that will be. Already 1/5 of the way through for Michigan as the pace car gets set to make the sharp left-hand turn down and into the safety of the pit lane. Bernardo Bashir and Eberhardt going to be in control of the field this time. He can go when he pleases. Green flag back in the air. And Bernardo Bashir off and away. The 11 Dylan Jones up on the wheel. He'll come up from the inside of 2. And he'll make it a side-by-side fight with Brandon Bowie for second. The 43 not put it up much of a fight into the corner, but right there, look at him put the right foot down. And Bowie not only going to challenge for a second, he's going to go all the way to the race lead now on the outside of the 90.
That was a great move by Brandon Bowie, just utilizing that top side, winding it up and being able to get a good run down the backstretch. He didn't really have a great restart. Daniel Eberhardt was able to get about a car length and a half on him, but he was able to stay right through him with that move in the turn, and now he's right on that back bumper trying to do something different. We have a 2-car battle as well for second and for third, so very good racing all the way around on this restart. We'll see how these guys utilize all these turns to save their tires, and you see Brandon Bowie now using that bottom line, and we'll see if Daniel Eberhardt will be able to do another move on that top side. He's going to move down, try maybe do a crossover. No, he's just going to stay right behind him and get that draft. Now he's going to use that side draft probably to go down the backstretch, and we'll see how he enters turn 3. That's a Daniel Eberhardt on the top, Brandon Bowie on the bottom right now, going side by side into the corner. We'll see who gets the better exit coming to the start-finish line, Evan.
It is side by side. Look at the big slide, though. That non-debuted Daniel Eberhardt. He could just not keep that car down. And how about Brandon Bowie? After, in all honesty, what was really a lackluster jump out of the gate, he's leading this race for the first time. It comes at the completion of lap number 23. So Eberhardt now back in second. Dylan Jones also lost a spot in all of that after, again, he looked like a lock-in for P2 with a great restart down on the inside of the racetrack. He's fallen to fourth, all that because the 88 of Andrew Farinars was able to get up and around him in that red Ford. So that's another reason why a little bit of shuffling up going on towards the front of the field. In the first side-by-side bit, I'm seeing the 00 of Gabe Wood and the 3-inch of Ronnie Wofford. How about some 3-wide? Brendan Kohler, Brian. Bad exit at a turn number 4, and it allows 3 cars to slice on the inside as Comstock takes advantage also.
And how about this racing going on right back here? You've got that number 3 of Rodney Walford on the outside. Gabe Wood on the inside now. Looks like Gabe got tight coming off of turn 2. That opened the door for Comstock to get to his inside as they work down the back straightaway. I'm not sure if Comstock's really going to do anything with it. He actually had to back off. And that's going to allow Brendan Kohler to get back in front of everybody right there. So what an incredible drive by that 36 machine to make that move after everybody lost the momentum right in front of him. Did a great job to jump ahead of both of those guys. And this is a great battle we've had going on back here for the last handful of laps. These guys have really been going after it. And we have a battle for the race lead going on right now as here comes Daniel Eberhardt to the inside of Brandon Bowie for the lead. Looks like Bowie's going to be able to hold him off on the outside line. He powers back out to the race lead down the back straightaway, and now here comes Freenars looking for an opportunity at it as well.
If Freenars wants to join the fun, but I'll tell you what, Eberhardt was so very aggressive to get into that positioning. He went all the way down to the flat of the racetrack on the front straightaway, and now the 43 Machine Boo, you can see topside not as good of a run off for the quarter this time. That's because the Donnie was much more prepared to enter 3 and 4 than he was back down in 1 and 2, where he eventually saw Bowie get right back on him. So now they can go head to head, Bono y Bono in a battle for the race lead. The Donnie and Daniel Eberhardt down low. Bowie just seems to be a little bit better in the center there up top, but it is a long back straightaway here at MIS, Trevor, and it's a drag race all the way to turn 3.
Yeah, and especially this track is very wide for these cars to go down. So, you know, you can easily do 3 wide, but the fact is, will they be able to hold up going through the corner? And now you see Daniel Eberhardt going to try and slide up in front of Brandon Bowie. Not going to happen. Freenar's looking to go 3 wide, but will hang up right behind Eberhardt. So we'll see how this goes out into turn number 1. The 11 of Dylan Jones trying to make it a 4-car battle. Liking all the battling that he sees, it's going to be able to easily make up some ground on that as you see him just closing in very slowly. And 17 and the number 3 also behind them. You still see side-by-side action. This has been going on for quite a few laps, actually, so very good racing going on. That high side still working out well for Brandon Bowie. Daniel Eberhardt still trying to make something happen, maybe trying to do that high side as well, seeing it's working out for Brandon. Now he's going to follow him to try and continue to get that draft. This is one of those drafting tracks that you can easily get a draft at because, you know, as you mentioned, such long straightaways. So it's going to be really beneficial to Daniel Daniel Eberhardt can use that draft to be able to do another prepare into that corner, but he shoots it up a little bit too much, and now Andrew Freenard is going to be able to take advantage of him on that low side. We'll see if he can battle back on that high side. Eberhardt trying to make everything happen, and now he's back in second, but a little bit further behind.
Well, it looks like the Donnie machine of Eberhardt, Brian, has kind of learned after he tried to go up the inside of Bowie a couple of times, and it was unsuccessful because that time he was up top of the 88 of Friedars, and you can see the 88's putting up a good effort, but I think Eberhardt now knowing, hey, outside, if I just kind of worry about myself, I'm going to get the run off of the corner, and a little bit of a close call there, but slices across the bumper, lets the 88 know that he's going to be behind him by the time they get back down to 1 and 2, and that'll single file things back out towards the front. In fact, single file all the way through the top 10 now, 30 laps in the works for MIS at the moment. Your championship leader through 10 races, Brandon Bowie, leads at the moment. Nani of Everhart, though, they've looked very evenly matched, and unless Dylan Jones can find a little bit extra there, he's at the tail end of this 4-car train up front. Unless he can find a little bit extra, get back up into the conversation. Again, hasn't been up there since he lost the race lead, made that big mistake at 4th, fell back to 5th, with him out of the equation for the moment. Still there, but again, not with the speed I saw right out of the gate. Bowie and Everhart look pretty evenly matched, and I think you could even throw Freitas into the conversation as well. He's lurking as the Nani looks low to the inside. Probably could have gone down there in the center. Waits till they come off of the corner, tries to get a little bit of a draft, and we'll see if Everhart can figure it out this time.
He's down on the bottom of the racetrack trying to challenge Brandon Bowie for the race lead once again. Bowie runs high down here in 3 and 4. He's going to try to pinch Everhart down to carry that momentum off the corner to the start-finish line, but Everhart actually got a pretty good run off of turn 4 that time by, and he's able to carry that speed, but you can see Bowie is able to battle back, and we have a caution here at Michigan once again, our second caution of the day, and it's a big wreck in the back. I see Spencer Preet is around with some heavy damage coming off of turn number 4 right there, and it looks like he might have had a little bit of help from the number 87 of Chris Hurlow to make that happen.
Yeah, that was a big incident. Troy Haight was somebody else who got involved in that one after the fact, but Spencer Preet, 37, definitely had a little bit of assistance. We'll take a second look at this one, and kind of a combination of two things. And you look at the scene with a racetrack and tend to use that as reference, but you have to understand coming off of the corner, the cars are going to go high, and that doesn't necessarily tell the entire story. But the 87 more or less holding a line down there, did come down a little bit in the center, but you can see the back end of that 37, Trevin, was so free, and I think it was a matter of the fact that maybe the 87 of Hurlow wanted to get a little bit of a side draft off of the corner, while at the same time Preet was struggling to hold on to the back end of that car as it was walking up and up and up the hill, and eventually they just found each other. Big hit for both of those cars into the outside wall, brings out the yellow flag, shuts down the battle for the race lead, and opens up pit stop second time tonight. Everybody's coming down.
Absolutely, and you see Brandon Bowie leading the way. I believe it's going to be 4 tires and some gasoline for these drivers up front, so we'll have to see how this works out. But, you know, another unfortunate person that got caught up in this was the 28, as Brandon Bowie comes down to pit road. We'll see what his service is. We'll see the right sides go up, Daniel Everhart as well, and appears to be everybody taking 4 tires and fuel as we suspected. But going back to that wreck, the number 28 really committed to the tie line and, you know, just was not able to get out. And now you see the number 36 of Brandon Kohler actually getting the lead off pit road, and Brandon Bowie following close behind.
So he'll follow closely behind, but it is Bowie in those drivers off of the pit lane. Only trailed to the 36 of Brendan Kohler. Right sides only. Number 36, Chevrolet, Brian, making the first strategy play of the evening. He wants those 2 tires. Last time, everybody went with 4. This time, we've got somebody who wants to step out of it. We'll see how it plays out for him with about 12 laps on that last run.
This is one of those calls, I say it every time it happens. I like making this call early in the race. That way you know whether or not it's going to work out. He has time to recover should this not work out. I mean, he only has 10 laps on the tires here, and actually we're seeing from race control he's not going to have an opportunity to really see how this plays out because he has a penalty for driving through too many pit stalls on pit exit. So that number 36, I was getting ready to say this is a great call. It's going to give him the opportunity to see how these 2 tires are going to react, but he's going to come back to pit road, Evan Pasoko, and I assume he's going to go ahead and put them left sides on and have 4 fresh ones for this next restart.
Yeah, and I find that interesting because sometimes we'll see somebody go into the pit stall, make some sort of a mistake. You know, they overshoot the stall or whatever. They then make a last-second decision to take less tires to kind of negate the penalty that they would have gotten or the time that they would have lost, per se. But for Brendan Kohler, it looked like he just went in, took his 2 tires, and left. Maybe it was something as simple as forgot to put all 4 tires on the options, and that car's going to come back down to pit road. He will try 4 tires again. Right side's up for a second time, and there you go with the left side tires up as well. So he's going to have to hustle, catch back up to the field because the lights are going to go out on top of the pace car all of a sudden. That exchange of pit stops driven, not nearly as exciting as what we thought it was going to be. Brandon Bowie still in the race lead now, Daniel Everhart second. They were side by side for the race lead, but the Nani on the inside as the yellow came out. So now with the Nani of Everhart on the outside, we'll see if maybe he could make some highline magic work down into 1 and 2. Freenars in 3rd, Jones 4th, and Guerrilla 5th. His old 25 car still on the lead lap, gets set to go at it again.
Yeah, and you know, you can you can win races on pit road, and you can also beat yourself up on pit road because, you know, as we just saw, he's going to have to move to the back of the line. And also, Randy Yoakum, who is in P number 20 right now, will have to drop down to P25 for the same penalty of driving through too many pit stalls on exit. So that's going to be a bummer for him. But we're getting ready to go back green, Evan.
This car going to be off it in this time. Brandon Bowie wants to make sure that he is going no faster than the very minimum of 70 miles an hour, which is pace car speed here from MIS. He can go whatever he wants between now but he exits the race start box. It's well read by Bowie, and so get a great jump back to the green flag.
An incredible jump for Bowie on this restart. He's out by 3 car lengths, but the battle is on for second position. You got Freenars on the bottom and Eberhard on the top, and Freenars is actually going to settle in that second position very easily. And now it looks like the battle may be on for third and fourth, as here comes Robbie Walford in that 3 car looking after Daniel Eberhard for that position. But Eberhard got a great run coming off turn 2. That's going to allow him to hang on to that third position, and now they start single filing out through the top 7 or 8. You got to look back to the number 1 machine of Daniel Falkingham racing side by side with Gabe Wood. That's a battle for 8th and 9th as they come off turn 4.
8th and 9th, and even behind them for 10th and 11th position. It looks like the double O of Gabe Wood is going to win out in the battle against Daniel Falkingham, so Falkingham's going to fall to 9th position. And even now in the 11, or the 1, I should say, sorry, there of Falkingham kind of getting in the way of the 24, Nick Silver. Silver is trying to get up and around Tommy Ryan. Was actually doing a pretty good job of working on the inside of the racetrack, but he can't get around the 1. The 1 going to go low, basically shut the door on him. And Silver now going to tuck up in line topside as he tries to get around Falkingham, but definitely a defensive move by the 1 to not try to lose any more spots, as you see him kind of get pinched off at the inside of the racetrack with Tommy Ryan up top. Also in front of them, Gabe Wood. Big mistake the last time at a 2. You saw him go way down to catch it. When he goes right back on the attack, your pole sitter Dylan Jones just can't get back into the rhythm he had on the first run. And Gabe Wood's going to snatch 7th away from him.
Yeah, he's really got to find that rhythm back towards his pole position run. So we'll have to see if this can, you know, overcome what's happening right now. But still a fight for 9th position, as now Daniel Falkingham's going to go down low, see what he can do. But Nick Silver going to fall closely behind him. We'll see if Tommy Ryan can get that run on that top side. It does not look like it, and the number 1 is going to cut off that air to Tommy Ryan, so it's really going to stall him out a little bit, and he's trying to get that side drop off of Nick Silver going into turn number 1. We'll have to see how this works out for him. Still on the top side, and Nick Silver on the bottom with Daniel Falkingham right in front of him, but no, it's just not going to happen for him on that entrance. We'll see if it helps in the exit a little bit. Nah, they're really still stalemate towards each other, so we'll have to see how this works out for him. A little bit better run off the corner, but not by much. We'll see if Nick Silver can battle back going into turn number 3, Evan.
See if he can get back on him for sure. Nick Silver in the number 24 machine, the lone driver on the inside of the racetrack. Again, it all worked out for Falkingham. The couple of blocks, the defensive maneuver has maintained his top 10 running spot, and seems to have been at the misfortunes of Silver, because Ivlano Kalisto is able to get up under by him. And what a run, Brian, that Ani Sevens had. Started back in 24th, is already up to 12th position. If the Ani 7 can complete this pass, and they're awfully close at time of 2. And the 24 Nick Silver, all the progress he had made is going to be erased. And if he stays where he runs now, he'll fall back to 12th position by the start-finish line. That means he'll be exactly where he started. So 2 very different tales of the tape in this battle for 11th and 12th between Silver down low and Adani 7 Lino Kalisto on the outside.
Kalisto's having a heck of a drive right here as he's able to move ahead at the start-finish line to be ahead of Nick Silver. That'll move him up into that 11th position, but they remain side by side as they head down into turn 1. Nick Silver is able to run all the way down almost into the light gray area of the racetrack, but that's not going to pay off for him off the corner here as Kalisto is going to get the run. He's going to be able to get clear of the 24, and here comes Michael Cozy Jr. looking for that position as well. This could push Nick Silver back to 13th if Cozy's able to get by him, but Silver is not going to give up on the bottom of the racetrack. He continues to charge down on the bottom, and it looks like he might be able to squeeze up in front of the 77. Is he going to be able to do it? Yes, no, he won't, as here comes Cozy battling back on the outside.
And in front of these guys, not missing anything else, single file all the way up to Brandon Bowie, who leads this race. So we stick with Michael Cozy Jr. in that number 77 machine, who again started mid pack here, has gotten a couple of spots, but the passes have not been easy to come by. And the 24 gonna kind of box it out there. I know the 24 is Silver, then it go all the way up to the outside wall, but That car was kind of creeping high off of the corner, and I think that Gozy recognized that, didn't want to stick it out there and have both of those cars get involved in any sort of extracurricular, so he tucks back in line behind the number 24 machine, and therefore, that battle is done for the moment. All the way up front, though, maybe a battle for the race lead. Brandon Bowie still in control. Daniel Eberhard has been wanting to get up on the 43 and challenge your championship leader with a move, and the 88 advantage for Renars, Brian, giving him a little bit of encouragement that time down the front straightaway, saying, if you're not going for the race lead, fine, but give me second. And I think Eberhard now feeling that pressure, going to step up. Great run that time down the back straightaway. Got within a half a car length, though, as Bowie a lot more aggressive on the dive into 3 and 4.
What I'm seeing right now is that Brandon Bowie has some really good short run speed, but long run speed, it definitely looks like Eberhard and Freenars are a little bit quicker, but what Bowie is doing is exactly what he needs to do. Track position is so critically important, you cannot afford to give it up. We saw him prior to the last caution, he refused to give that race lead up. He pinched down Eberhard and made sure he held onto that race lead for as long as possible, and he's doing it again here. We're almost to halfway already in this race. You need to hold on to that track position, that way you know you have an opportunity to be there at the end of the race, and he's definitely doing exactly what he needs to do. But you can see right there, Eberhard is just so much quicker as he's able to close right in on the back bumper of Brandon Bowie. He runs a little high in the corner, a little bit higher than we see Bowie running, and it really translates to some really strong speed and big runs coming off the corner. Right here comes Eberhard again. Is he going to be able to do something with it? He looks like he's going to try to sneak to the outside. Bowie tries to hold him off, but this might be the opportunity that Eberhard was looking for. He's to the outside of Bowie for the race lead down here in 1.
And if you can stay up top again, maybe that's going to be the key. Look at the 90 that almost diamonds that corner. Tuck slow on exit. He's got a great run. But again, he's going to end up on the inside of the racetrack. We'll see if this time's the charm. Daniel Eberhard's going to make it side by side with Brandon Bowie, working lap number 44 of 100. From the Michigan International Speedway, round 11 of the Full Throttle RSR Racing Cup Series, powered by English Auto L.L.C. Again, he's there with him, Trevin, but he consistently comes up just that little bit short, that little bit of an extra run that he would have needed to be able to clear Bowie. And I think if that 43's been up top so far, based on what we've seen, Bowie's in a pretty good spot now to be able to defend off of the turn. Again, the 90's fast. They may be even on speed, but that 43 having the top side when they go side by side has been the difference maker thus far.
I think if Daniel Eberhard did not move to that bottom side a few laps ago, he might have had a better setup going into the next turns, because he was really dominating that outside line, and then he just switched to that bottom. Maybe it just wasn't working for him, and now you see it's working on that bottom side a little bit more, but we'll see if Brandon Bowie can battle back on that outside. You see him moving all the way down to that bottom, and now he's going to move up top, just running that line that he knows, and that will be Daniel Eberhard this time by, taking the race lead back. So we'll see if he can inch forward a little bit, and you see Freenars as well battling into that, and he might be able to take that complete lead away from Brandon Bowie. No, he won't. That's going to be a good run for Brandon on that top side. Again, that top side dominating this whole entire race. So we're just going to have to wait to see how Daniel Eberhard's going to be able to battle back on that bottom line and be able to make enough momentum to outrun that top side, but I just don't think it will happen anytime soon. You see Daniel nearly gets a little bit sideways. Freenars as well, able to catch it. Very nice job by both of them, but that's going to leave Bowie further into the race. That's going to be 1.1 second in front of each of them. That's about 2 car lengths ahead, and now Daniel Eberhard's just losing that. He could have just cooked his tires using that low line a lot, so we'll have to see how Brandon Bowie will be able to pull away from them, Evan.
And you have to wonder if that slide for the 88 of Fredar's Bryant was simply, just losing the car. Turn 4 especially tonight has been an awfully slippery place on track, or if it's, Freenars is tired of sitting behind Eberhard again. The fact that these guys are exchanging side by sides, going back and forth so many times, and yet they're still within only 0.3 of a second of each other, tells me that these cars, you could basically throw a blanket over them. They're all very even at the time. And then if that 90 machine of Eberhard maybe could have gotten a better restart there, stayed up top and gotten that outside positioning, he might have been able to do something. I wonder, though, how long Freenar sits back in third. I'm sure there's a part of him that says, hey, listen, again, the 90 machine hasn't been able to get it done. How about I go up there, because I would love to get the clean air. But I think Freenar's is in a great spot right now. 4/10 in front of Ronnie Wofford, so Wofford's not getting up on his bumper. He doesn't have to eat away at his tires like the two in front of him are, going back and forth. If I'm Freenars, I'm sitting exactly where I am. I think he's almost in the catbird seat here in third, watching everybody else fight, although that big mistake from Eberhard. You see the 88? Could have made a pass, instead stays on the bumper. So I think Farinar's content for riding with still a little bit more than a half of this race to go.
I think the one thing that Bowie realizes, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of people can see it as well, is that Eberhard is the faster car right now. And if he gets out in front, I don't think you're going to be able to throw a blanket over this top three anymore, because I have a feeling that 90 machine is going to be able to just drive away from these guys if he can get the race lead. And that's why Bowie is fighting so hard to keep him back right now. He knows that is his only opportunity to stay up here and have a chance to do it. He's got to try to keep him back there for as long as possible. The problem is, the longer this run gets, the more I see his tires falling off more than the 90 of Eberhard and the 88 of Freenar's. And at some point, I believe these two drivers are going to be able to get by him. He does have a nice little gap right now because of that mistake made by Eberhard about a lap ago. He's opened it up to about 0.4 of a second, so he has a little bit of breathing room. And if I was him right now, I'd take this opportunity to try to run a little bit easier, try to cool them tires back down, and see if you can't maybe have something for them when they catch back up to you to try to challenge you for the race lead.
And that is going to be the key, is just where do we find ourselves in X amount of laps from now. We, speculated at the very start of this one, hey, this is a race that can definitely stretch out from one another and go green for quite some time, but we've been pretty consistent on how long these runs have been. The tires really fall away after anywhere from 15 to 20 laps. We have not seen a run longer than that to this point in the race. That time by the lap number 50 completed as we cross the halfway point in tonight's Pure Michigan 200. Let's take a look at our iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally organized racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, and many more. At lap number 51, Brandon Bowie, championship leader into tonight, looks to lead that off into segment number 2 of the season. He leads by 0.4 of a second, probably the biggest gap he's had this run, on top of Daniel Eberhard, who sits where he started in second. Third place starter, Andrew Farinar, still third at the moment. Michael Guerrilla up to P4. And Ronnie Wofford, first time. The number 3 Chevrolet has worked into the top 5 tonight. David Comstock scored in 6th position. Gabe went up a little bit to 7th spot. Dylan Jones has slid down to P8 after starting on pole. Nick Silver's 9th, and Lionel Kalisto rounds out your top 10.
Daniel Falkingham having a good run here tonight. He's in the 11th position. Then we have Sean Casto sitting back in that 12th position. Brendan Kohler had that penalty after trying for 2 tires. He's rebounded all the way back up to the 13th position, so a great rebound for that number 36 machine. And then Michael Cozy Jr. is in the 14th spot. We have Tommy Ryan running 15th. Austin Coop is 16th. How about Dwayne Vincent running in 17th position right now? Kyle Kamer is 18th. Shane Ewing is 19th. And rounding out the top 20, we have Randy Yoakum running 20th right now.
21st, we'll go to Braden Whitaker. 22nd is currently where he started. Andrew Jones. 23rd, we'll go to Brian Chambliss. 24th, Carl Shedd. 25th goes to Chris Hurlow. Spencer Pree will be 26th, and these two have taken their cars behind the wall. That's Troy Haydett in 27th and Dwight Beverly in 28th. That will be your 28 car field here at Michigan.
Look at the bottom at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you visit iRacing.com to sign up today. And if you go to iRacing.com/membership, you can get access to some exclusive promo codes up to 40% off, some new iRacing memberships, anything. And back live from the Michigan International Speedway, you better keep an eye on the battle for the race lead on LSRTV side by side. Still Brandon Bowie leading at top of the non-emission Daniel Everhart as we bring you back into our coverage of tonight's Pure Michigan 200 round 11 of the 2018 Full Throttle Real Racing Cup Series powered by English Auto L.L.C. And as always, want to say hi to our friends over at English Auto. English Auto L.L.C. is a full-service luxury automobile repair center in Odenton, Maryland, conveniently located to serve both the Baltimore and D.C. markets. English Auto specializes in Jaguar, Land Rover, Mercedes, Volvo, and BMW service. Founded in 2007, English Auto is now in its 11th year of business, and with a staff that has over 60 years of combined experience in the automotive service industry, English Auto has an A+ rating on the Better Business Bureau. For more information, you can visit them online at www.englishauto.us and on social media, facebook.com/English Auto, and on Twitter at English Auto LLC. We're going to have a change for the race lead, and it is because Brandon Bowie is headed down pit lane. So that's one way for the Nana machine to complete the past pit stops at lap 61 as the 90 of Everhart now goes to the race lead.
And this is what we assume to be their last pit stop unless we have another caution. We won't see these guys back to pit road for fuel the rest of the race. They're well inside the window. Bowie trying to get into his pit box. I thought he was going to slide through, but somehow he gets that car stopped in his box. And now he's trying to get tires and fuel right here. It needs to be a flawless stop by his team to get him back out there as quickly as possible. And now it looks like while he's getting ready to be down in the way, here comes Everhart making his way to pit road. So his hand was forced right here, Evan Pasoko. Bowie came in. He could not afford to give up that kind of time on the racetrack. So now Everhart is in as well to try to get his tires taken care of.
And no surprise that it's an immediate response from Everhart because every single lap that you're out there on the fresher tires, you're going to be about a second to 2 seconds faster. Michigan's a big track, so we'll see if that short pit pays some due dividends, and maybe it can give a little bit of separation between Daniel Everhart, who also makes a mistake, overshoots the box on entry. It's going to cost him a second or two as he backs it up and gets started for his 4-tire service.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're saying. You got to make sure your pit stops are flawless. Obviously, Daniel Everhart maybe taking a little bit too much time to think to himself, I got to make this perfect, and then you just mess up. But got to make sure you still collect yourself, and you make sure you get yourself off the pit road and back on the backstretch. Obviously with the new iRacing service or build, you got to wait till that backstretch as we were talking about. But here he goes. You see him just in the camera shot of Andrew Freenars now. You also see Andrew Freenars struggling a little bit to keep his car under him, so we'll see if he comes down pit road as well, and we'll have to wait to see once all these pit stops cycle through to see where these guys come out.
So Guerrilla pits for the race lead, and it is going to be basically, a swap every lap or so. Freenars becomes your race leader. Musical chairs is the word I was looking for. Freenars going to come in. He'll go up the race leader, David Comstock. Brian, good opportunity for some of the drivers to stand a little bit longer, get that extra bonus point for leading a lap, but you have to figure if you're pitting just now, and again, a lot of drivers already come in, but if you're pitting now, you're looking at 35 laps to go to the end of this race. Are we within a point now where these pit stops are going to be it for the end of the race and drivers can make it from here?
Yeah, anything inside of 41 to 43 laps, you can make it to the end on fuel. The question now just becomes tires, and if you can hang on for that long without coming back to pit road. But if you're a guy like David Comstock or Andrew Freenars, or these guys that stayed out a little bit longer, what you were hoping for was to catch a quick caution and catch these guys that were quicker than you down a lap or at least way behind. As you see, David Comstock, Rodney Walford both make their way to pit road. They're going to give up the race lead now to Nick Silver. But you stay out here hoping that you can catch a quick caution while this is all going on, because like right now, Nick Silver would be the race leader. Well, Brandon Bowie, he's back in the 12th position. Yes, he's on the lead lap, but he's already put 3 or 4 laps on those tires, and if we got a caution, he's going to need to come back to pit road to get tires again and in order to be competitive for the end of this race. So that's what you're looking for, but it hasn't happened to this point. David Comstock in his pit box, he's been out there for several laps beyond these guys, so you're going to see a significant change as far as how far behind he's going to be. He was only about a second behind Brandon Bowie when Bowie made the move to pit road, and as he leaves the pit road right now, you can see Brandon Bowie is already off turn 2 going down the back straightaway. So that's just how much time you give up by staying out there just for a handful of laps.
The fall off, because the track is so big here, is quite extreme. Nick Silver, the driver who has taken over the race lead, best lap he put down was after the first yellow of this race at lap 23 on the fresh tires, he put down a 39.131. Last time by for him was a 41.6. So the difference between his fastest and the last lap, that last lap he put in not even the slowest he's done on these tires, was at least 2.5 seconds. So the math is easy. You stay out 4 laps, you're giving up about 10 seconds. The tire advantage will eventually go back in your direction as you see Silver come down, and he will pit for the race lead, but I don't think it's ever going to be anything as extreme as the disadvantage you have when you stay out. Shane Ewing now second position. He will jump up and assume now control of the race lead in this one, but you have to keep an eye on Brandon Bowie in the 43 car. That's the driver you're looking for, the driver who was in control, and before he pitted at lap number 61 was leading this race. He's already back up to P5, and it is quite a gap between he and the rest of the cars behind him. 15 seconds of difference between him and Sean Casto, Lionel Callisto, and Daniel Eberhardt. So it's a big swing in favor of the 43 on that short pit call.
Absolutely, and you look behind and you got Sean Casto and Lionel Callisto before Daniel Eberhardt, and it's, obviously you saw what happened with that pit stop, so, that's exactly what happens when you mess up even the slightest amount of it. You just lost 2 positions to the field, so now he's going to have to try and make those back up. You see now Daniel Eberhardt right behind that 97 machine, trying to get as much air off the car as possible to, continue to charge back to that front part of the field. Brandon Bowie now up to 4th, and now everybody shifts up a position because another person just went down pit road. Still waiting for Shane Ewing, Andrew Jones, and Tommy Ryan to all make their pit stops going to lap 70. But, Daniel Eberhardt still trying to just get around both of these guys. Lionel Callisto, he's trying to work on right now, side by side, going down the backstretch. We'll see how he enters turn 3. Able to clear him going into turn number 3, so that's going to make quick work of Lionel Callisto. Now trying to do Sean Casto in the same turn. So we'll see how this works out. He's able to get to that quarter panel. We'll see how it works out. Goodyear tires are matching up towards each other, so we'll see if he can get a little bit of an edge on turn number 1. It appears, yes, he will, trying to keep the number 67 of Sean Casto all the way up there. So now he's going to be able to take that technically second place position away from the number 67, a little bit loose also, that number 67.
And the 67 of Machida Castro now on the outside at a big wiggle that time. Coming off at turn number 2, Callisto's going to slide on through and get by him. And look at the 67 machine to try to cross him back over. So Eberhardt trying to minimize the amount of time that's wasted, and a big slide that time to 4 as well. So drivers completely on the ragged edge here as they come to take 30 laps to go. Again, still waiting for current race leader Shane Ewing to come down pit road. Brandon Bowie 8.7 seconds behind him is the car that will cycle through to the race lead in this one. The gap noticeably smaller now, though, between Bowie and Eberhardt, Callisto and Casto, down to in the ballpark of 5 seconds or so. So Bowie is definitely going to have to keep an eye on some of the fresher tires behind him, but Shane Ewing far enough in front that Bowie really unaffected by the 32, knowing that he's not going to get to the end of the race.
Yeah, unfortunately for Shane Ewing, he is approaching and needing to come to pit road. His last time on pit road was back under our last caution of this race when he pitted on lap number 32. So he is definitely getting close to that point where he's going to be out of gas. Right now, he'd be right at 40 laps on the tank. And I have to believe he's going to have to come any second now or he's going to be out of gas completely. But this is going to work out pretty nicely for Brandon Bowie because, as you mentioned, he's going to have somewhere in the ballpark of about a 5-second advantage over Daniel Eberhardt. And while Eberhardt's running about 3 to 4 tenths of a second a lap quicker, I don't think he's going to have enough time inside of 30 laps to go to be able to run down Brandon Bowie and get to him and have enough time to actually challenge him for the race lead. We'll have to wait and see what happens, but I don't think he's going to have enough time. That mistake he made on pit road, Evan Pasoko, I think is going to prove very costly when it gets down to the end of this race.
And that might be the difference maker, is that 2-second difference, and it's very different when you make a mistake on a pit road, should say, green flag versus caution flag. You make a mistake like that, you're going to lose about 5 spots under yellow just because everybody's down pit road at the same time. But it's actually more costly to not even lose any spots, but to lose those 2 seconds under green because it puts you that much further behind Bowie. And that's why I'm thinking about that 5-second difference between second, third on track right now might just be insurmountable. That and when Eberhard and Bowie, they had kind of gotten away from Friedars a little bit. The 88 was definitely still there, but it was more so the 43 and the Donnie going at it, and as you see Eberhard there, he pulls up and lets Friedars go by. Without that mistake, the Donnie right now is not funny with Andrew Friedars for third on track, and now Friedars takes over third, what will be second, and he's got a tall task ahead of him if he's going to erase those 5 seconds to get up to Bowie and fight for the race lead, this time by 26 laps to get the job done.
Yeah, he's just going to have to follow Friedars all the way around the track, make sure he stays up with him, and maybe work together to, draft up towards Brandon Bowie to make sure they're in contention for the win. I'm sure they're hoping for a caution flag, and I'm sure Brandon Bowie is hoping for a clean green race for the rest of this race here at Michigan. 25 laps still to go, so we'll have to see how this works out for them in the long run. Andrew Friedars was able to make a clean pass on Daniel Eberhard, and just as you were saying, you got to make sure you're clean on pit road. Either it's yellow or green flag, especially on green flag, because those 2 seconds really have cost Daniel Eberhard the second place, maybe even the win by the end of this thing.
And with 25 laps left to go in this race, again, this is already the longest green flag run of the night. 22 cars still on the lead lap, and of the 28 who started this race, I think the number's at 23 still on track. Everybody else either behind the wall or stationary on the pit lane and likely not to return to this one. So now you're in a very good position where this race might just wrap up under green flag conditions. You never want to jinx it. You never know. We talk about the tires very much eroding away once you get to the middle portion of a run, and with all the slipping and sliding we've seen here at MIS, nothing is guaranteed. But I think now's a game of you got to focus in and work with what you got. We've got a great fight though, Brian. 5th on back, a handful of cars all on top of each other right now for position. Ronnie Wofford leading the way, Comstock and a 97 as well.
And while that's going on, it's worth noting that Shane Ewing finally came to pit road, so that's going to hand the race lead back over to Brandon Bowie, and the official gap from first to second will be 3.6 seconds from Bowie to Friedars. But yeah, as you just mentioned, a great battle going on back here between Rodney Wofford, David Comstock, Lionel Callisto, and Sean Casto. These guys have been on top of one another for the last handful of laps, and Comstock is trying to take that 4th position away from the number 3 of Rodney Wofford, as well as Casto trying to take the position away from Callisto. Casto is actually going to make that move work. He went all the way to the bottom of the racetrack, cleared the 97 of Callisto to move into that 6th position, but the battle is on right in front of them between Comstock and Wofford. These two continue to go after it here as they try to battle for that top 5 position.
And the 97 of Callisto literally all over the back of Sean Casto, that time down the front straightaway. They are fighting for the right to maybe get up to the back of David Comstock. Wofford, though, looking a lot faster. In fact, I'm expecting that 42 machine to complete a pass here for 4th shortly. Looks like Comstock a little bit more bite at the moment. The interval, though, again, between 1st and 2nd is coming down, and Brandon Bowie knew that this was going to happen, Trevor. When you make that short pit, again, you get the advantage of those 2 or so seconds every single lap, but therefore, if somebody pits 5 laps after you, they're going to have 5-lap fresher tires. So you're going to see that the longer we go into this race, the advantage that Friedars has over Bowie is going to get less and less as the tires start to wear and slowly get closer to one another. But a gap that was over 5 seconds got to 4 is now down to 3.2. If Friedars keeps this pace up, he can catch Bowie before the race is done. The problem is nothing guarantees that he's going to be this much faster for the next 21 laps consecutively.
Yeah, and as everybody says, it's one thing catching someone, it's another thing passing him, and I don't think Brandon Bowie will be able to give up that position easily. As we saw earlier in the race, the battle between Daniel Eberhard and Brandon Bowie, it was a fantastic battle. Brandon Bowie was always battling back, always having something else for Daniel once he got to the side of him, so we'll have to see what happens at that point. But again, catching him another few point seconds that lap, so we'll have to see how long it's going to take for him to get up there. It's not a question of when, or it's not a question of if, it's a question of when it's going to happen and how is he going to do it. How is he going to be able to get on the outside of Brandon Bowie to create this last pass for the lead. He's done a great job on Daniel. Now he's just going to have to continue to fight hard for Friedars and hope it stays green. And now he's hoping for a green flag because he's able to catch him. And he gets a little bit sideways off of turn number 4, able to catch it a little. We'll see how this reacts to his time. We'll see once he crosses the line, able to get a little bit. Now he's inside of the 3-second mark. So definitely catching him, as you were saying. You know, he's got 5-lap pressure tires, so he's Brandon Bowie's going to have to keep that car under him and make sure he doesn't burn off the tires a lot quicker. So just make sure that he's running his consistent laps and not being able to push it a little bit more harder. And once he sees Andrew in his rearview mirror, not panic.
That's the key, is you can definitely know that he's keeping an eye on those intervals. Brian Farinar's right there in the number 2 position right now, for sure, knows what the difference is. Farinars knows the task at hand. Bowie, if he's not looking at the intervals on his relative, he's definitely got people on top of the spotter stand on the pit box, keeping it posted. Daniel Eberhardt as well in the 90 machine, not all that far off either, as Comstock still, in fact, behind the 90 in the 3. I thought maybe the 42 would have been making a little bit more of moves towards the front in recent laps, but all of the drivers are acutely aware of what's going on track right now, and Farinar's not the best of a lap that time. There are a good amount of lap cars on the track right now. Bowie just passing Tommy Ryan, and the 99 machine rather just getting ready to pass him on some of the fresher tires. So because of that, again, all of this could factor into laps, but Farinar's the last time by was 0.2 of a second slower than Bowie. This time by, Bowie going to put down a 41.2, and it was a 41.2 for Farinar. So overall, he's only lost time the last 2 laps. You absolutely cannot afford that with 18 laps to go.
I think what Brandon Bowie was doing at the beginning of this run was going into full-blown tire conservation mode, because at one point he was giving up half a second a lap to both Andrew Freenarge and Daniel Eberhardt, and I think that was by design. He had such a gap over these guys. There was no reason for him to run that car extremely hard. He knew that he wanted to have something left on those tires in case one of them was able to run him down. And I think it's paying dividends at this point of the run, because now that we're getting down to the last 17, 15, 16 laps of this race, he's beginning to stretch that gap back out. It got down as low as 2.8 seconds. It's actually 2.8 seconds right now. But I think he's still just trying to manage those tires and allow him something to race with under the assumption that Andrew Freenarge is able to catch him before they get to the checkered flag.
And we're getting awfully close now. 16 laps to go. Next time by, Bowie, Friedars, Eberhardt, Comstock, Watford, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Of course, the 4 running order going across the top of your screen along with the intervals, so we don't have to tell you every single lap by the difference is. There is a little bit of a difference made at the last time, and there's going to be contact. The 32 spinning on the front straightaway. Shane Ewing is off it into the grass. The 21st placed car almost wrecking, and somehow he's going to hang on to that Chevrolet SS after he and an on Tommy Ryan got together for position. Somehow, we're not under a yellow flag right now.
Yeah, and not Shane Ewing, Tommy Ryan had just gotten his lap back from Brandon Bowie, so he was on the lead lap fighting. So Brandon Bowie is going to be able to catch back up to the number 99 of Tommy Ryan, so we'll have to see how this works out for him. You can see a little bit of damage on that left side of the number 99, but still able to keep up with Brandon Bowie. Now, Andrew Freenards is also trying to get his 3rd race win of the season, and last week, or a few weeks ago at Charlotte, he won his 2nd race, so he's going for his race number 3. And Brandon Bowie, last time winning April 23rd at Richmond, so he's trying to get his 2nd race win on the year. So we'll have to see how these guys both have persistence to get to that race win.
Battling for the race win for certain. Freenars, though, has done a much better job in the last 3-4 laps or so, correcting some of those mistakes. He stalled out at about 3 seconds off. Now it's down to 2.2. It's really nail-biting if you're on either side of this thing. If you're Freenars, Brian, you're thinking, okay, am I going to use all 14 laps of this to get up to him, or do I want to push now, get there first, and that way have more time to try to make the pass? Obviously, the harder you drive, the less you're going to have when you get there. Freenars, though, in the number 88 machine, again, trying to vie for the win here from Michigan, trying to add to his list of wins so far this season's got 2 of them, Bristol and Charlotte, just 1 week ago. So he's won on one of the shorter mile tracks. He has won at an intermediate at Charlotte, and of course now trying to go for the 2-miler, trying to get one on all the disciplines. Small track, half-mile in Bristol, 1.5-mile in Charlotte, and right in between with a 2-mile at Michigan, but the odds are definitely stacked against him here. Again, Bowie has the luxury of being able to kind of look back and work that gap. Again, Freenars goes, knocks off 3-4 good laps, and then gets shut down the last 2 in a row.
Yeah, and that's again where I think Brandon Bowie has just been managing that gap this entire run. I think he's running just hard enough to make sure that they can't catch him before this thing's all said and done. And he's also making sure that he has something left in the tank on those tires as far as that's concerned to be able to race them again under the assumption that Freenars is able to get there. But as you just mentioned, the last 2 laps in a row, Andrew Freenars really didn't gain anything, about a half a tenth between each of those laps. So he's not making up enough time as we get down to just 11 laps to go in this race to be able to really challenge him. And he actually lost a tenth right there. He was battling, trying to pass the number 1 of Daniel Falkingham, and it cost him a little bit of time. And that, unfortunately, if you start losing time at this point, there is no recovering from that. You almost have to have a caution at this point if you want to be able to catch back up, because a 2.2 second gap at a track like this, to make that up inside 10 laps to go, Evan Pasoko, it's almost impossible to do, even if you do have an advantage on the tires.
The question is now, obviously, Brandon Bowie would have to make some sort of a mistake. We've seen plenty of top runners have issues tonight. Perfect example, Dylan Jones. Trevin started on pole, was leading this race. Even when he lost the race lead, was still there neck and neck for third. Made a big mistake, only lost 2 spots. Thought that maybe that was going to be a motivating factor for him, that instead of wrecking that car out of this race, he only lost 2 spots. Since then, it has been a disaster. As Dylan Jones, your pole sitter, runs second to last on the lead lap right now, down in 18th position. So you never know who and what kind of mistake may come. And if you're Bowie, you work around some more lap cars. Just now passing Shane Ewing. He's going to have to get around Tommy Ron. The 99 car will lose his lead lap status. If he gets around him, we'll go from 19 to 18 cars in the lead lap. So if you're Bowie here, you got to stay locked in. Ewing on the outside to make it side by side. It's not what Bowie wants to see. I don't think as much as the fact that he's afraid of the 32, but anytime you're side by side with somebody, there's always that risk, however minuscule it may be, that a mistake may occur. And you can see the 43 want nothing to do with it, tucks back in line behind those slower lapped cars.
Absolutely, as we just saw what happened with Tommy Ryan and Shane Ewing a few laps to go, just losing that whole entire, or not Shane Ewing, another car a few laps to go. What happened with when they got really close together, obviously did not want to happen. They just got a little bit of contact, so Brandon Bowie obviously being aware, and when you run side by side with somebody opposed to somebody just running by themselves, it will also get them closer and closer to each other. And now we're getting reports of Eberhardt, who was in the 3rd place position, has wrecked and has pulled his car out of contention back behind the wall, and no caution came out during that, Evan.
The Donnie machine in turn 4. We've talked about it as a trouble spot. He just got sideways all on his own and just clipped the pit road wall. The barrels on pit road entry is what destroyed the back of the Donnie car. He's lucky that car wasn't completely shish kebabbed, but it then went for a slide in the grass flying everywhere. Daniel Eberhardt's night will be done, and of course all of that grass is off of the racing surface. Depending on who you ask, they might try to go through it every once in a while, but because it's off of the racing surface, there is no caution, and we stay green. So a tough break for Comstock, who had such a great run up until that point in this race. Tough break, sorry, for the Nani of Eberhardt, I should say. The Nani car who's wrecked out of this race. No yellow, though. We're still green, and we're inside of 10 laps to go in the Pure Michigan 200.
And the gap right now between first and second has steadied out at 1.7 seconds. It had gotten as low as 1.5, and now Bowie is starting to kind of inch back ahead of these guys, and that also helps in the fact that Freenars had to deal with the number 9 machine of Randy Yoakum as he's on fresher tires. A lap car there passing the 88 to kind of hurt him, and it looks like Freenars has really wore his tires out. He just continues to get sideways coming off of turn 4 lap after lap, and if he's not careful, he's going to end up just like we saw Eberhardt here just a couple of laps ago. He might be spinning through the grass as well, but we're down to just 6 laps to go in this thing. Evan Pasoko and Brandon Bowie's maintaining that gap pretty good. I think he's in a pretty good spot as long as he doesn't make any mistakes.
I think he is in a very good position, and again, he has the ability to work that gap. He has no reason to go up and mess with Shane Ewing and Tommy Ron. I'm sure the fact that 2 cars are fighting just in general is not something that he appreciates. Again, Ewing was a lap down, so we actually went, instead of going down in the number of lead lap cars, we went up to 19. So Shane Ewing and Tommy Ryan and Freddie Ray's leader, that is a battle 4 position right now for 18th and 19th on the racetrack. So Bowie's looking at this and thinking, you guys can fight all you want. Listen, I'm not going to get up there and try to get by you. Just please do not wreck into each other. This time by may be, though, that point of no return as we get set to take 5 laps to go in this race inside of 4 laps to go or less. If a caution flag were to come out, this race would not restart. So that's another point that the 43 is waiting to get to.
I think exactly what Brian was saying was correct. He was saving his tires for the end of this race, and he's obviously done such a great job keeping them together, not really battling with anybody, letting all these lead or lap down cars go by, and you know, and it's just great strategy by Brandon Bowie, able to keep this gap from him to Andrew Freenars, and really just great thinking, great strategy by Brandon Bowie, able to keep this from him. And now you see just cars all around him, making sure he stays put, but Freenars is also just trying to catch him, trying to run his race, trying to run a different line than what Brandon Bowie is. So we'll have to see how this works out for him in the later parts of this race.
And you look at the 9 car now, somebody else closed it up at the back of Bowie. That one, Randy Yoakum, who got a little bit sideways, and every time somebody breaks traction there off of the corner, your heart kind of skips a beat. But for Bowie right now, he just has to get very defensive, Brian. He is within inside of that pointed no return. At this point, he doesn't care if there's the yellow as long as he is not involved in it. Freenars has closed in a little bit more, but 1.7 seconds over the course of 4 laps, nearly impossible without a mistake. So Bowie just needs to keep doing what he's doing and not overthink it, although sometimes that's a lot easier said than done. Although Brandon Bowie, somebody who's found a lot of success this year, only 1 win to this point, winner from Richmond back in segment number 1, that one in the middle of April, but it came into tonight as by far and large the most consistent driver, only driver with 8 top 10 finishes in 10 starts so far this year. Your championship leader into tonight, your segment 1 points champion, and maybe soon to be 2-time race winner of the season.
And this is a very stressful position to be in if you're Brandon Bowie, because you have 2 drivers right in front of you that have already had some issues, gotten a little sideways, and almost wrecked it right in front of you. And with just 3 laps left in this race, the last thing you want is for something to happen like that. But you're in a position where you can't really back off too much, because if you give up any time to try to build a gap between yourself and those lap cars, you could potentially fall back to the hands of Andrew Freenars. So you almost have to stay right where you're at and just hope nothing happens. But with 2 laps to go, he's almost home. And like you mentioned, he just needs 2 clean laps.